All right. Good evening, baseball fans, and welcome to the newest episode of the Diamonds and Dice podcast. So we've got our man here. We got Bernie Strom. Bernie, give everybody hello.
Hello, everybody.
All right. And tonight we have going to be a very special episode. I mean, they all are, but the focus of this channel has been talking to gamers. Well, tonight we're going to talk to somebody unique. Everybody knows in the channel, but Aaron Reed, say hi.
Hello again, everybody.
Okay, now Aaron Reed, say hi.
Hello.
All
Hi,
right.
everybody.
So, guys, if you look here, what's on the tin besides saying diamonds and dice? It says breaking the doors of perception. Conversation with Aaron Reed. So, the doors of perception came from the great poet William Blake. So, William Blake, the idea, what he was talking about, Blake was talking about humanity's limited perception of reality around them. He said, if the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. So it's interesting because we talk about possibilities, and William Blake was very much about. He felt that man, humanity, however, what term we want to use, we interchange them. That we have the capacity to experience and be and see the infinite. Aldous Huxley later on would write a book called The Doors of Perception, which actually describes an acid trip, but in a way that is so vivid, and the imagery that Huxley uses, that it brings that experience to life for the reader. And both William Blake and that was so that the book by Aldous Huxley so influential that the immortal rock band The Doors named themselves both after the William Blake assertion of the Doors of Perception and Aldous Huxley's books. So, as sort of an intro here, we're talking to Aaron Reed, and there we go. There's Mike Silva joining us. As probably everybody in our immediate community knows, Aaron is sightless, completely sightless. So, not just like legally blind, but sightless. And so, why we're going to get into perception tonight is we're going to talk about the things that we look around and that we take for granted, both as gamers and as citizens in this infinite that William Blake talked about. So I want you to think of stop and let's do it. We're going to do a little mental exercise. All right. And this is for the audience to do this. Play along. I want you to think about something that you know a lot about, but you've never seen it. You've never seen a photo. You've never seen movie, whatever. You've never seen this thing, and yet you know so much about it. You're practically an encyclopedia. So the mental exercise is because you've never seen this thing, but you know so much about it. How would you describe it to a person who would be able to see? So let's say you've lived your entire life in this limited space where what you experienced was kind of small, but yet you were able to break through. You're able to break through that space, break through those doors, and be able to describe and experience, maybe even in ways that those of us who can see do so. So do that, and this is going to be for people too watching this video later on. Try that mental exercise. And I think you find it very difficult to do it. And yet here we are talking to Aaron Reed. Mm-hmm. So Aaron, thank you for joining us tonight here on Diamonds and Dice. And I'm going to turn it over to Bernie because he's got some questions, and I will too. Sure. But Bernie, take it away, my friend.
Well, thanks, Beatles. I appreciate it. And Aaron, thank you for coming on and sharing your experiences with gaming with not only us, but the audience, as David Lando stops by and says hello. When I first got involved in the community that Beatles has brought together here, particularly with dead ball baseball, and I got to know Aaron, I never had given thought to what it must be like, how someone can play something such as a computer sports game or any computer game for that matter, not being able to see. It was a total foreign thought in my head. I mean, I couldn't wrap my head around it. And the more I got to know Aaron and the more I talked to him, the more, if you didn't tell me he was sightless, I would never know it because he plays this game just like everybody else. And that got me to thinking that I think that not only did I have that perception, but lots of people must have had the same perception. And I thought this would be a great topic for one of our shows.
Ooh,
And with that said,
yeah.
my first question to you, Aaron,
Yeah.
is what first got you introduced to sports simulation gaming? Most of us started with Stratomatic or APA as a kid and had the cards in front of us and whatever, but you couldn't do that. So what got you started?
That's a good question because I remember being a kid with living with my mom, my dad, and my older brother, and he'd have his buddies come over, and I don't know who had this, but I remember being, gosh, I want to say 2, 3, maybe 4 or 5 years old, around that age limit, and maybe 3 or 4 years old, and I guess he had either my brother or a friend of my brother's friend. I guess he had this game called Super Batter Up. It was an old like Super Nintendo game that wasn't really a sim, but it was more like it was like RBI baseball in a way. It was so fast, but it was like it had the I never knew this until many, many, many years later. It had the real players. And back in those days, you either had an MLB license, a PA license, or nothing at all. And I'm watching my brother and his buddies play this game, and I'm like, wow. And I'm like, it's like, people ask me, like, how do you know that you're blind? It's like, I've heard word of mouth for years, like, you're blind, you can't see. I'm like, it's not a negative to me, but I listen to them play, and it's like, it's just a casual game for them, but it's like, it's fascinating to me. But I would watch them play, and it's like, I want to try it. And it's like, my brother, he was kind of teasing me, you can't hit the ball, you don't know when to swing. I'm like, well, hey, give me the controller, let's see what you got. And I'm using my ears because sometimes you hear the noise, when the ball comes at you, it's timing based, of course, but it's like, and I hit a couple balls, and my brother's friend's like, how's he doing that? He can't see. And it's like, he's, listening. I'm just listening for the pitch to come at me. It's just, making the noises, and means low, means high, or something like that. No, it's the other way around, I think. But it was like, I would watch them play. I tried it, and then it just it was a gradual, just playing the video games and stuff like that over time that I would play like Frank Thomas or something like that. And it took a little bit used to get to the timing, but I was really fascinated by it. This sounds like it's obviously fast, but it sounds like a real game. No, it's
Well,
not.
that's more like a video game. But
Yes.
I'm curious what got into the simulation type games like we play Action PC Baseball. How did that transition come about?
I think I actually did this twice because this goes back about as far as late, maybe 2022. I was reading about Ernie Harwell, and it said he did the voice commentary for Blast Process or whatever it's called, APA Baseball for Windows. So I'm thinking, is there any footage of this out there? So I go on the YouTubes and I look around, and I found some things, and I listened to it, and I'm like, this is a real simulation. It's like you get the feel of this radio-ish broadcast of a baseball game from, say, any time of anywhere. And but I was like, let's go. This is really interesting. So flash forward to I think it was January of last year, and I actually no, I think late 22. I did some streams with Beatles on Action PC Baseball, but they all kind of these both kind of tie into each other because I was doing. That's how I found Beatles was Baseball for Windows, and I'm like, watching some occasional streams, and we did some. I'd helped him. I collabed with him on some Ned McGreevy stuff when that was going on. This is like what late 2022 Beatles?
I don't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah.
Will you use the word watching?
Yes.
What is it that we know you're not watching?
Yes.
What senses are you using when you're using that term?
My ears. I mean,
So-
I can basically my ears.
Okay.
But yeah, I'd collab with Beatles on Action PC, and then after I think it was January of 23, I was listening to an Atma stream with the rest of the folks in the stream, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm wondering if I could play this. I mean, it's obviously a PC game, and it's obviously on Windows. I've got Windows. I've got a laptop. I wonder if this is accessible to me, because right now I'm just listening to it. To me, watching, which most people would say is like using your eyes, to me it's listening, because I'm using my ears. I hear what's going on. I can hear the commentary and all that, whether I'm listening to the radio, whatever. But it's like I'm listening to it and I'm watching it going, wow. And I told Beatles, I said, I wonder if this is accessible to me, and he sent me the link to the site, and I'm like, it's cavernous for one thing, but basically, like you said, Bernie, you were asking, Bernie, watching to me is using my ears, since I can't use my eyes at all. I'm a premature baby, but yeah, I can't use my eyes, so watching is using my ears, and APBA really hit that spot for me. It's like I can listen to it and use my imagination, and it's like a game is going on, and it's just like listening to the radio.
What type of assistive technology do you have on your computer that allows you to click the right spots on the screen and stuff like that?
I have a speech program called NVDA, and see, I didn't think this was possible in the beginning, because the way when I listen to, say, Beatles, or when the late Robbie Woodburg would do a stream of Baseball for Windows, he's pointing and clicking everywhere, and he's hitting what he needs to hit. But it's like I was honestly shocked when I first tried it. You can use the keyboard to navigate, and it's with NVDA, it tells me what I'm looking at, or it tries to anyways. If I press enter on something, for example, like a player, it gives me the name. It tells me, how old he is, what year he's playing in, what his statistics are, and all that sort of stuff. But navigation wise, I've had this speech program for, I want to say, it's 2010, so it's been over 10 years at the most. And it honestly is a big help to me, because a lot of some speech synthesizers or speech apps don't have like complete navigation, or they don't have full accessibility, because they like Narrator, for example, when you first get a computer for the first time, you have Narrator. It's supposed to, but it doesn't fully help you with things. Well, the program I have it helps. I mean, I've navigation is so easy, and I can find things immensely very well.
What have you had any particular challenges to using baseball for Windows or even Action PC? If people know you, they know that you do broadcasts for our Field of Dreams Baseball League,
Uh-huh.
and that's using Action PC Baseball,
Yep.
not Baseball for Windows. And I find the job you do terrific. Are there any special challenges you have in doing that sort of thing?
Well, I guess challenge wise, it would be like talking over the narrator a little bit, because when I play Action PC, I use a narrator to guide me through the action. It's like, but the problem with the narrator is and I know this isn't anybody, it likes to stop and wait while it catches up. And that leaves me going, like, I'm calling it, but I'm talking over the narrator, which is a low pitched voice anyway. But I'm like, he knows the first and he's going to be, and I have to wait, like, say 5 or 10 seconds, safe. And that's really the, like, NVDA doesn't help me navigate and set up lineups. So I just use the computer lineups. But the only challenge I seem to face with Action PC is having to wait for the narrator to give me an action so I can call it, and then, but I have, it's just like, I know it's not the game's fault because the narrator has to stop, catch up and get up to speed with the images on the screen, so to speak. But it's like I have to stop and wait for it to tell me something so I know what to call. But that's really the only challenge of Action PC. Now, Baseball for Windows, I haven't really experienced much challenges with that yet. It's just certain things I've yet to do, like an all-star game or a draft or things like that. I can set up series and do things like that, do like league seasons or whatever it is. But the problem is I'm a horrible, like, mathematician when it comes to, like, how many times does the teams play each other during the season? Because, like, one team could finish their season, one league, for example, could finish their season earlier than the other. And because, like, the American League would finish early and the National League would still be playing, or the other way around. But it's like, that's why I don't have any, like, as played schedules to go with, because it's other than that, it's like, but my challenge with APBA, and this, I've yet to do this, is do an all-star game or a draft. But I've practically mastered APBA for the most part, because I figure things out over time. It's like, okay, how do I rename the teams? And then it's like, and I'd ask, say, Robbie Woodward, for example. He was the one that was helping me with the basics. He's like, advanced draft is where you're going to draft your players and you can name your leagues and teams. I'm like, okay, now how do I do it? But the help guide isn't really navigable for me. So I would play with it a little bit, and it's like gradually figure it out. I'm like, okay, I think I got it. You can, I know how to rename leagues and rename the team. And I just figured it out over time. But
Getting
yes.
putting aside the game for a minute,
Uh-huh.
how long have you been a baseball fan?
Oh my gosh. That's a good, because I remember being a little kid, and my mom and dad would sit in the living room listening to the Atlanta Braves. I was 4 years old, but I went to my first ever game when I was 11. It was a minor league baseball game where the Lexington Legends play at. I think it's Legends Field now. It used to be Applebee's Park, and then it was Whitaker Bank Park, and now I think it's Legends Field. But I went to my first game when I was 11 years old, and I'm thinking this is a big screen TV, and my dad's like, no, it's fully live. I'm thinking, okay, but see, and the thing is with me, when I went, I had my one of those little not like a small radios, whatever it is, and the radio. I put the radio on the station that the team was going to be on, and I'm listening to the game being called in my ear as what's going on in the field transpires, so I know how to react accordingly. How can you swing at that? Wait for your pitch or something like that. And but yeah, my first game was when I was 11 years old, and we went to 3 that summer, and that's when I really started to get big into baseball at that time because I was 11 years old. I was looking for something to I guess you could say watch on a frequent basis, but not like because baseball only goes May, June, July, 6 months, so you get half the year consistent time to watch baseball, and then the rest is like you itching for the next season to start. So you go, so I could watch it again. I'm like, bring it on, and but my first game was when I was 11 years old. I really started to get more into baseball after that because it was really, just interesting to me.
Sitting in the stands with the radio on,
Yep.
what is it that you feel and hear with that experience at the park besides the radio?
Just being there and being surrounded by like numerous thousands of people at one time that are watching the same thing that I'm watching, and sometimes the occasional interactions. I've made a couple close friends. I've made a couple of good friends that I've met at the ball games and stuff like that. That we shoot the BS every once in a while, but it's just like being around. It's like a picnic almost. Being there, being surrounded by so many people that that are just out to have a good time.
Interesting. Beatles, you
Yeah.
have any questions you want to interject?
Sure, but I want to do thought experiment part 2. So the astute among you and Mike Silva will note that I have a representation of Forbes Field. So part 2 of our thought experiment would be this. So we've been on here now for 22 minutes listening to Aaron, and of course you heard my little spiel about William Blake and Aldous Huxley. So close your eyes and imagine trying to describe Forbes Field, right? For just memory now. And again, you've had the advantage of having seen it, but then close your eyes and describe it. And so, Aaron, I'm going to talk a little bit about something that because it's about, again, doors, the way that we perceive things, and
Yes,
you bring a perspective that most of us just would never have about the game. And so what I want to talk, so Bernie's questions have been, I mean, excellent. I want to try to dig a little bit deeper.
Mhm.
So I'm sitting here looking at this image of Forbes Field in Pittsburgh. And what's interesting, and we've been glossing over this, but you've never seen a baseball field.
Exactly.
You don't know what Frank Thomas looks like. You don't
Nope.
know what Aaron Judge looks like, what have you. So what I wanted to get in, and this is part of the game of baseball, and that whole thing is some people might argue, Aaron, that you're missing out. But when I hear you talk, and I've known you now, you came onto my broadcast one day and said, "How do I get this game?" And it was Baseball for Windows. I remember it.
Yeah.
So for you, I never ever get this sense that you're missing out. You're a walking, talking baseball encyclopedia, especially baseball from 1990 on. You know the game, but can you talk a little bit about, away from the radio, even, because I know you take a radio to baseball games and stuff like that, but so when you hear Ernie Harwell calling a game, or I'm doing a game, or Bernie, or whomever, what's going on? I mean, because you don't have a frame of reference for imagery of a baseball diamond even. So what's playing out? Tell us a little bit about that, because for us, right? I mean, I'll get people on here, oh, geez, there's no animation in Baseball for Windows. Well, so, or there's no whatever. And so could you kind of talk us through whether it's a baseball game, but again, not so much using the NVDA software
Yes.
but just when you're talking baseball, what's playing out, because you don't have that imagery and yet you're right there with us. You're right there with us. Can you talk a little bit about what are the thought processes going on, or how you make relations to things that make sense to you that you've never seen? Could you talk about that a little bit? So we're digging deeper. We're digging deeper.
Yes, that's a
Okay.
good question.
Thank you.
Because, like, when I'm not at a game, for example, and I'm listening to, say, Marty Brennaman doing Reds games, I always try to imagine in my head, like, me being there and watching, quote unquote, with my family or something like that, at being in Cincinnati or wherever it is. And sometimes I imagine myself as the big fan screaming, "Come on, get a hit, go for it," and it's like, and when they don't, it's like, oh, it's because I listen to broadcasters do games, and it's like, for example, when Bernie does, if he does like one stream, I think he did it last year, he did one of my team's games, and I'm like the big fan in the seats going, "Come on, get on. It's like, just, I imagine, the live aspect.
So let me ask you this. Okay, so again, just this digging deeper. Let's take a play.
Sure.
So tell me what's playing out in your head, again, without the benefit of imagery, but yet for you it lives as much as it does for everybody watching this and everybody that watching and listening this, and later on. So you've got like a really speedy runner on first, right?
Yes.
And he's off to the races. He's stealing second. Tell me what's going on in your mind's eye, is the best way I can put this. Right. So all of a sudden he's breaking for second. What do you experience? How do you experience that? Because you experience that in ways that we don't.
Well, in my mind's eye, I imagine a speedy, almost like a speedy jackrabbit. Almost.
Okay. All right.
Because rabbits are quick animals. They run. They run really fast. It's like running through a cornfield almost. Got to make it to the end.
Right.
And more often than not, he makes it. And
Okay.
I always imagine something like that. It's like a dog running after a frisbee or something like that. Got to catch it.
So when you think of something like a ballpark, and you're at a ballpark, so there, of course, you have the sounds. Mm-hmm. You have the tactile, right? You can, if you're sitting, you can touch the seats. You can feel the steps. There's the aroma of peanuts and beer and hot dogs and all those things that are baseball, right? But so just, and again, I'm just trying to do, so for you, when you imagine a baseball field, what is it?
Just smell of grass.
Nice. I like that. I really, really do. You still with us? I heard a poof there for a second. I think Aaron's.
Tell my dad and that.
Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, you're here. Okay, that's cool. So smell the grass. It's beautiful, of course.
Smell the grass.
Hearkening to Field of Dreams. I love that. Go ahead.
Let's see. The smell of grass. The smell of a well cooked hot dog.
Yeah.
There's good smells of the baseball game. I mean, you could almost put it in like a scratch and sniff catalog or something like that. The smells of baseball in a catalog today. The smell of a well cooked cheeseburger or a hot dog or the smell of beer. And
the sound of the crack of the bat.
The crack of the bat, question. The pop of the mitt. Yeah.
I was going to ask Aaron, can you tell from the sound of the ball hitting the bat if we're going to have a home run, a base hit? Can you tell the difference?
I mean, certain bats, I don't know if this is true or not, but I have a feeling, my feel is certain bats, or there's a way a ball comes off of a bat, it makes that sweet sound. If it's like if you're sitting there in the stands and you hear that, or let's say, for example, you might get a little base hit, but if you hear something like this, then it's gonna go far.
It's like that explosive sound,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I like, and I know I kind of harken back to this a little bit. Like when I play, let's say I'll use this as a quick example. Let's say I'm playing All-Star Baseball on, say, the PlayStation or the GameCube. There's different sound effects for a bat that, I could tell like what's going to happen, like little tapper is a grounder or a foul ball, hits it hard as a deep drive, or a little pop fly is a medium swing. So you can kind of tell. But when you're listening to, like when I'm listening to a game, for example, on TV or whatever it is, or I'm at the ballpark, which is what we're talking about here, I listen for the sound. It's like if it's like that explosive sound, that's when you get up and scream like a lunatic. I'll tell you a story.
Sure.
I remember it was 2008. It was the summer of 08. Me, my girlfriend at the time, and a couple friends of mine, we had gone to a Louisville Bats game, and she's not really been to baseball games that much, but so she really didn't understand much of the aspect of the game, or like understand what may go on. But I'm there next to her, and I've got my headset in my ear listening to the Bats broadcast, and somebody hit the ball really hard, and they now just getting progressively louder and higher. I'm telling Sam, I'm telling her, I said, that's a deep fly ball, and that ball's not coming back. And I started standing up and going crazy, and she's like, she started to get it. I'm like, you understand? She's blind. I think she's legally blind, but I told her, I said, that's just us reacting to what others see that I don't. And she started to get the hang of it a little more after that. And I said, just it's okay to go crazy when something like that happens.
I love that. Aaron, you're a real ambassador for baseball. I'm going to give you guys some quick background here on Aaron and me and our odyssey with baseball games. So there's another game on the market, an old game that was out around the same time as APBA PC, and that was old time baseball, and that you can choose between Mel Allen or Kurt Gowdy calling the game. We tried everything. And so this is where my doors of perception were kind of open. So as Aaron and I are on so StreamYard, there's a way with StreamYard that you can talk without ever going live, and so you don't have to use Zoom, whatever. So I'm trying to Aaron, right, because it's a DOS game. So the software that's out there for sightless people can't read DOS games. It can't do it. And I'm having Aaron, I'm like, no, move your mouse a little to the left, to the right, up, oh no, back down. And we were doing this for like an hour and a half. And it made me realize right then what I take for granted, that I'm trying to explain to somebody, because number one, I don't know, because I think eventually, had we stuck with it for like 3 months, it would be muscle memory. You would know where you were. But because of that, the way that game is constructed, it's even if it's kind of like baseball for Windows. If you are sighted, as most of us are, there's a lot going on. But so I thought, okay, all right. And then I said, Aaron, this would be such a perfect game for you. The reason I was reticent about getting him baseball for Windows was because it's the very thing that has kept Bernie from it. And that's its modularity. And it's a modular game. It's not, not like Action PC or Out of the Park or just about every other baseball game where all the menus are, and everything you can do is right there. Baseball for Windows has discrete modules. And so I'm thinking, I'm not sure. Right. And we'll get to Mike's comment here real quick. He says, I'm amazed what Aaron is able to do without the use of his eyes. As am I, Mike, believe me. So I said, listen, man, let's get you Action PC Baseball, because it's programmed to Visual Basic. It's not There's no fancy APIs in the game or anything. And Aaron was fine with it. And I'm just listening to him again on StreamYard. And I'm like, all right, let's give this a go. So we got Baseball for Windows next. And John Hurston I've got to give a shout out here to John Hurston. I know a lot of times because John does say some rather weird things,
Fix your products, sir.
like that cards last longer than PDFs. But so we give him a little shillelagh up alongside the head. But I got to give him a shout out here. I had written to John after I placed the order, and I said, look, this is for a friend of mine who's sightless. He's a baseball fanatic, loves Apple, love Baseball for Windows. I just want to make sure that this link gets to him. John was back to me within 10 minutes. He said, I got you covered. No worries. What's his email? Boom, boom, boom. Link there, ready to go. So I worked with Aaron for about 2 hours. And this is when, our good friend Robbie was still around. And Robbie, even though I introduced him to Baseball for Windows, Robbie, we used to chide him a lot for being may his memory be eternal, for being like the ambassador for Baseball for Windows. And John Hurston, I know you'll never hear this broadcast, but Robbie Wartbrook sold a lot of copies of your game. But anyhow, I worked with Aaron for about 2 hours. And this was before. So after that 2 hours, I said, well, man, good luck. And Aaron's like, yeah, I'm going to work with my software, blah, 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 blah. Before I hooked him up even with Robbie, 2 days later, I said, all right, Aaron, let's see how you're doing. Aaron's moving around the modules and things like that. I'm like, whoa. And he said, but I sort of understand how to do these things. I said, I'll tell you what, Robbie loves Baseball for Windows. So I'm going to get you guys hooked up, and bam. And Aaron can move around Baseball for Windows like a pro. There's some things, like he said, he doesn't know how to do, and unfortunately, maybe if that software doesn't, because it has a great help system, but it's something because Aaron, and we will do this at some point, since you do understand the modularity of the game and know how to already rename player or rename teams and leagues and stuff like that, doing drafts and stuff like that, creating all-star games, it's not hard. But what impresses me is that people will say, I can't get my head around it. It's all these different modules. Here's a guy right here that can't see, has never seen, and can navigate the game almost as well as I can. And only because I've been playing it longer. So Aaron, you're an inspiration in that way too, is your perseverance. You've been part of the Shanks League and the Fields of Dreams League. I know you were you were a spectator for McGreevy, but you were part of Shanks, and you're still part of Fields of Dreams, and you're in there and you're doing drafting and everything like that. And I'll tell you what, Aaron, one of the things that I find great about you is that you don't give up. And I think that there's something here, because you've taken what used to be called a handicap, and we don't use that word anymore, and I'm glad we don't. But what you've created, rather, are opportunities, not right. You're saying, okay, this is a challenge. I'm going to make it an opportunity, and you're always positive, man, and you're always, of course, your impressions, you're good, all these things, but it's your love of baseball, and especially the love of something that we would say you've never seen, but in fact you've seen in ways that we've never seen. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Bernie. I just wanted to kind of get into the a little bit deeper philosophical thing, and thank you for that. So Bernie, it's all yours. I'm going to go on mute and listen.
Well, don't go too far away, because
I'm right here, buddy.
We're going to have some more input here in a minute. But getting back to the games itself, I got a couple of more questions, Aaron, if I could ask them. Have you learned anything about strategy or baseball that by playing our simulation computer games that you didn't know about baseball before you started to play?
Not really, but I'm not much of a master strategist or anything like that. But it's because with Action PC, for example, I let the computer do the managing, or sometimes make the calls. It's like, but for example, but if I'm in control, for example, I believe that a man, like let's say there's a pitcher and batter at the plate. I believe that you got to keep them honest by having the pitcher throw a strike to you before you even think about swinging. Then again, there are those that swing on a first pitch. But I believe that I learned through a lot of gameplay that make the pitcher come to you. Don't always chase the pitcher. I mean, make him throw a strike to you. That's probably one of the things that I've kind of learned over time. It's like take, and then if you walk, then walk. But if you keep the pitcher honest, keep the pitcher keeps the batter honest and vice versa. Let him throw a strike to you. That's probably one of the only strategies I've actually picked up from something like that. But with APBA, you can't really do that because it's one pitch mode practically the whole time.
I got you. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Have you met any other sight impaired gamers like yourself?
I have a lot of friends of mine who are fully blind gamers themselves as well, but not a lot of them are into baseball like I am. I do have friends that are fully blind that are baseball fans that listen to radio and things like that. But some of them I went to school with, to tell you the truth. Old school friends from many years ago that are baseball fans and that are blind that are fully blind, sightless like I am.
Interesting.
And I always, I talked to one of them a few days ago, actually, on Messenger. And I said, he was telling me, he said, I'm looking for a good baseball sim to play on any kind of platform. Keep in mind, he's also sightless like I am. I went to school with him and I said, I tell you what, go to APBA's website. I recommend this. Go to APBA's website. It costs $28.99 and buy yourself a copy of Baseball for Windows. And trust me, you're going to get hooked like I did. And he said, I'll do what I can, but it's like, I always say it's nice to turn people on to a product like that, or like a baseball sim or something like that, because you can explain to them, like how in the sightless mind's eye that the game is being played, because I can't see, they can't see, but they can imagine it how they want to imagine it. But it's like, it's always, I do have friends, like I said, that are sightless gamers like I am. Some are baseball fans, some are not. Some try to play other games. Nowadays, and from watching them play, they've made games of different genres vastly accessible to the sightless community. But go ahead.
Interesting you should bring that up, because that leads me to one of my next questions would be, if a game company, Action PC, APBA, Stratomatic, anybody decided to come to you for your advice, what advice would you give them to make their games more accessible to the blind?
I would say, like, for example, maybe with Action PC, like this, I would do several things here. For Action PC, I would have like a script for any kind of speech software that myself or any sightless person may have on their computer. Have a script that says, for example, the Atlanta Braves or Cincinnati Reds or whereabouts thereof. Yes, in Action PC, it will tell you what teams you're setting up to play each other. But it like when it comes to if you want to set your own lineup, that's a challenge. Other than using the computer button, what I would have them do with that is maybe have some like typing sounds or navigation sounds along the way a little bit, kind of help the player set up his lineup or something like that, and have a script saying, okay, Benzinger batting third at first, for example, or that kind of navigation assistance. And with Appa, it's more of the same. Now, that one you could do the same thing, but it's not as hard because if you click on something, it tells you what it is. I mean, if you press enter on, say, a player, for example, Lonnie Smith, it'll tell you Lonnie Smith, age, what year he's playing in, possibly his age if it has that, and that sort of stuff. So it's not really that hard to. But I would just tell them to have like scripts for speech synthesized programs or apps, as they're called, and to say this is what this is. And I would also throw in little like hints, like to do this, for example, to highlight, to select this, press enter, or to do this or that, press this button, for example. And just have it tell the person, guide them along the way, so to speak. I mean, MLB The Show's kind of gotten a bit of a handle on. They don't have accessibility, but what they're doing is they're using haptic feedback for navigation assistance. So, and plus, with my recent purchasing of an iPhone, there's an app on there called Be My Eyes, and you can have it take a picture of the screen, and it will tell you what's on the screen. But it's not the best because you have to get it at a certain distance to get it to fully work. But what I would tell these companies is make a script for speech synthesizers in speech apps that will help the player who is sightless / blind, that may not understand it, guide them along the way. The difficult spots, anyways.
Well, that makes sense. Aaron, before we went on YouTube this
Yes.
evening, and I believe yesterday, the day before, we chatted about the show a little bit, and you told me you had some great stories that you would want to share with the audience. We don't have a lot of time. There's probably about 10, 12 minutes.
I think I've told a couple of them.
Show.
Beals and I may have told a couple of them already, but go ahead.
Well, anyway, I just want to know if there's anything else you'd like to share about your experience playing these games, and just give you an open mic and talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Sure. I think because I just recently finished doing a replay of the '84 LCS with the Royals, Tigers, Cubs, and the Padres. It's going to be Cubs and Tigers in a World Series. My fascination with it is what happened in real life may not happen in a certain in a sim, like IRL, the World Series '84 was Padres Tigers. This is Cubs Tigers. So, but basically, and the other day I did a playoff sim of 1999 with the 99 season for Action PC Baseball, and the Astros won the World Series over the Cleveland Indians. But it's like my fascination, like I said, is like in real life, it was the Yankees in 99, but in this sim, it was the Astros in 99. So what happens in real life may not happen on Baseball for Windows or Action PC, or maybe even the show if you wanted to go that route. But like And then it's like I can have baseball windows on in the background while I do things around the bedroom or clean it and stuff like that. And Ernie will just sit there and talk and talk and talk, and there's a game going on. But it's like my like Ernie will throw out some humorous nuggets every once in a while. Um, it's like I'll sit here and I'll say I'll be listening to it or I'll be doing things and I'll hear him say something like for when like let's say Dick Hauser's at bat. He sometimes says first names, so I've heard him say things like "Dick will hurt you" or something like that. I laughed so hard. I'm like, really, Ernie? Or he may say things like "You can't go wrong with Dick" or something like that, or the or things like that. Walked and made out once, really? And it's like, but it's he throws in little humorous nuggets, but he's calling a game, and you know, I've listened to games go to at least 15 innings once, and I was just fully entranced. I'm like, I didn't really know who I wanted to win. I'm like, this is a good game. It's a good score. It's, you know, but it's like it's, you know, like I've kind of been disinterested in today's form of the game. And I've said this countless times. The new rules have kind of put a damper on the game for me. But if I want to go back in time and listen to or play a simulated baseball game, I'll play, say, Hardball or maybe, you know, or MLB The Show or APBA or something like that. And it's like, it takes me back to a better time when the game was a little slow. It was a little slower. The game, it was more time. It took, the games took like, if you went to an actual game in say 19 in your time, for example, when in the let's say the 1960s, if you went to a game in the 1960s, it'd be a lot longer than the way it is today. And there are some that say, oh, they, you know, the rules are helping the game much more now than we thought. And I'm not going to argue with you, but to each their own. I mean, and I didn't think they would actually do this, but the company that makes MLB The Show actually had the chutzpah to put the pitch clock in the game. I'm like, because I got curious one night and I was doing an MLB The Show game. I'm like, I'm going to sit here and wait for about a minute or so and see what happens. And the guy had a 3-0 count. I'm like, no, they did not do it. They did not add a pitch clock in the game, and sure enough, they did. But they're going with the times.
That's
And
interesting. You mentioned the project you just did. Do you have any upcoming projects you're thinking about doing?
I'm trying to think because my last project I did was, other than the occasional Field of Dreams stream, I did an APBA video with StreamYard one day with the 68 Cardinals and the 92 Braves. But my last project was my 1990 replay, which the Pittsburgh Pirates won the World Series. Shouts out to the Buccos. But I haven't really done much since project-wise, but I am thinking about it. I might do another APBA project. I might do a simulation project with Action PC or something. I might do a playoff sim because I finally figured out how to do it. Big Clue kind of helped me out with he did that one kind of hands on. He helped me set up a playoff bracket, and I figured out how to do it for the most part. But I am thinking about my next project. What that's going to be yet, I'm not sure.
Well, listen, it's been, before we got started, Beatles told you this hour goes pretty fast.
Yes.
And it's pretty fast. We've already been 55 minutes through the hour. I want to thank you, Aaron, for taking an hour of your time.
Oh, you're welcome.
Letting everybody know what it's like to be a sight impaired gamer and what it takes and how much you enjoy it. I do, before I kick it
Yeah.
back to Beatles, want to let you know I've been simming all day with our new Field of Dreams season 5, and you're going to
Uh-huh.
have the best season you ever had.
Wow.
I predict you not only are you going to have a good season, but you're going to be over 500 this season.
Wow.
You will win over 80 games. So I'm very impressed, Aaron. Thank you very much
I'd like
for
to give
your time.
I'd like to give some advice to those that that may watch this that are sightless like I am. Please be patient. If you want to try APBA or you want to try Action PC, please be patient, because there may be times you'll want to give up. There may be times you'll want to just close the app, uninstall it, never play it again. Well, let me tell you something. Just do what I did. It's a gradual learning process. It takes a little bit of patience, but over time you're going to get the hang of it. So if you ever get, say, Baseball for Windows or any kind of sports sim game that you want to learn how to play that either has accessibility or is in Apple's case is multi-modulated, do give it some time. Be patient with it, and you'll figure it out. I did, and you can too.
Well, you've inspired me. Beatles, are you there? Are you with us?
Yeah. So, Aaron, thank you. So before we go off here, we got a couple minutes. Aaron, I want to thank you. So, coming up in a future Diamonds and Dice podcast, don't know when exactly it is. We're going to be talking about baseball games, baseball simulations, particularly, not so much arcade games, but baseball simulations as narrative. And Aaron touched upon something. We've seen in real life talking about the 1984 Real World Series. The Padres and the Tigers. And let me preface by saying that, of course, you play what you want, and you play it the way you want it. And we certainly have sim gamers that run the gamut from they want to play the game exactly, and if this guy was the pinch hitter, this guy comes in, and what have you, all the way up to nut jobs like myself who like to just completely go wacko and do all kinds of crazy things. And of course, that's why I'm gratified to see Fields of Dreams, because that's what it does. That's what we did kind of with McGreevy, which a lot of this stuff grew out of. So, Aaron, I want to thank you for making that comment unbidden, because that's going to be in a future podcast. Don't know exactly when it is. I'd like to. And so put this out to the community, anybody watching. It'd be fun to get somebody who, because I don't want to get involved in the conversation. You guys know where I come from. Is to get somebody who plays these simulation games, cross-era play, whatever, and to people who want strict season replays and talk about those experiences, because the one thing that both extremes have in common is that we are creating narrative. And as I believe Dave Gardner once said, once you click the mouse, you roll the dice, it's already fictional. It's already an alternate history. But what we're going to do, so David says the Padres winning the National League was an abomination. And he says, thanks everyone. Great show. Mike Silva is thanking you, Aaron, personally. So this has been a lot of fun. The next Diamonds and Dice podcast will be on Bernie's channel. We have no idea what it's going to be about. It'll take Bernie and I like 3.5 weeks to figure it out, and then we will. I do know that we've done this. We did this in our pilot episode before, but I know that one coming up is I would like to interview Bernie Strom, actually. Not so much. I want to talk to Bernie. Just again, because, at that time, Fields of Dreams was just getting started and things like that. So I want to kind of talk, Bernie, he's one of our statesmen here, along with Ken Castro, who, and Clinton Parks, curmudgeon that he is. We love him. So we don't know what's coming up next, but anyhow, I'm going to do some quick thank yous here. David Lando, thank you for coming in. Mike Silva, Philip Reynolds, thank you, Philip, for stopping by. We peaked out at about 8 or 9 viewers. This will pick up a lot more afterwards. Please make sure to check out Bernie's page. Please subscribe to all the content creators here: Philip Reynolds, Mike Silva, David Lando, of course. When we can get him on, I'd love to do an interview with 1930s guy. You guys, you haven't lived until you've heard David Lando do. But most of all, I want to thank Bernie, who's this idea of this podcast. It's his brainchild to be able to talk to gamers rather than developers. And Dave Gardner, we love you, buddy. You know, and we love what you're doing, and you're an inspiration. So you talk to the devs, we get to talk to the gamers, and it's a beautiful, beautiful synergy. Most of all, though, and in show business we say never telegraph the ending, but in this case we will. Aaron,
Yes.
a million thank yous for being on here tonight. A million thank yous for your friendship,
This was
for
a
being
blast.
such an integral part of this community, and look forward to many, many more, seeing you involved in more projects and things like that. And thank you for helping us to break the doors of perception. And with
This
that,
was a blast.
thank you, man. And with that, guys, we're now just a minute and 12 seconds over, and Bernie's going to lose his shit.
No,
So
I'm fine.
I will say until the next time, we will see you guys around the batting cage.
Thank you,
All right.
Beatles.
That
All
was
right.
a blast.
All right. So look out for
Thanks,
the
guys.
podcast coming up in September on Bernie's channel. Until then, good night.
See ya.